Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of the English Hour. I'm your host, Sophia, and today we've got a very exciting topic lined up. If you've ever felt stuck in life, or found yourself caught in a cycle of doubt, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Today's guest is someone who has learned how to turn those tough moments into fuel for growth. Jacob, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Sophia. I'm excited to dive into this topic today. It's one that I think can help a lot of people.
Absolutely. So today, we're talking about breaking through personal barriers. We all have those moments in life where we feel stuck, or like we're hitting a wall. Jacob, what do you think is the biggest barrier that holds people back from reaching their potential?
That's a big question, Sophia, but I think the biggest barrier is self-doubt. A lot of people struggle with believing they're capable of achieving their goals. It's like this constant inner dialogue that tells you you can't do it or you're not good enough.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that. Self-doubt has this way of creeping into everything, doesn't it?
It does. It's like an invisible force that makes second-guess every decision. But the thing is, that voice isn't always telling the truth. It's just fear trying to protect you from failure.
That's an interesting point. You're saying self-doubt is a protective mechanism.
Exactly. It's the brain's way of trying to keep you safe, but sometimes it gets in the way of growth. It convinces you that failure is worse than trying and failing, and that's not true.
So, how do we push past that self-doubt? How do we begin to break through those barriers?
The first step is awareness. You need to recognize when that voice of doubt is speaking up. Once you're aware, you can challenge it. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have to prove that I'm not capable? Often, the things we tell ourselves aren't grounded in reality.
So, it's almost like calling out that inner critic for what it really is, just fear trying to control you.
Exactly. And once you start questioning that fear, you begin to take away its power. It becomes easier to take action, even if it's just one small step at a time.
One small step, that's key. So, for someone listening who's feeling stuck, what would you say is a good first step to breaking free from that barrier?
Start by setting a small, achievable goal. It doesn't have to be big or life-changing. Just something that feels a little outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's making that phone call you've been putting off, or taking that first step toward a project you've been afraid to start.
I love that idea. It's like building momentum, right?
Exactly. Each small victory gives you more confidence. And over time, you start to realize that the barriers you thought were so big are actually just a collection of small steps waiting to be overcome.
So, it's about reframing the way we see challenges. Instead of seeing them as walls, we start seeing them as stepping stones.
Yes, and even when we fall short of a goal or face setbacks, it's important to remember that those are just part of the process. Growth never happens in a straight line.
So true. Those bumps in the road don't mean we've failed, they just mean we're learning.
Exactly. And the more we embrace that mindset, the less we fear failure. We start to see it as a necessary part of success.
I think a lot of people listening will find that reassuring. Failure isn't the end of the road, it's part of the journey.
100%. Every successful person has failed along the way. The difference is, they didn't let failure define them, they let it teach them.
I love that perspective. Jacob, I'm curious, have you ever had a personal experience where you broke through a barrier and came out stronger on the other side?
Oh, definitely. One of the biggest barriers I've had to face was my fear of public speaking. I used to be terrified of getting up in front of people. But over time, I forced myself to take small steps, like speaking in front of smaller groups, then bigger groups, and eventually, I was able to speak at larger events.
That's incredible. So, you didn't just wake up one day confident, you built it step by step.
Exactly. I made a conscious choice to challenge my fear, not let it control me. And each time I faced it, I got more comfortable. The more I did it, the more I realized that the fear wasn't nearly as big as I'd made it out to be.
That's such a great example of how we build resilience. It's not about avoiding fear, it's about showing up despite it.
Right? And the more we show up, the more we realize that we're capable of so much more than we think.
So, what's your advice for someone who's standing at the edge of their own barrier right now, looking at something they want to do, but are too scared to try?
I'd say take that first step. Even if it's small, just start. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Surround yourself with people who support you, and don't be afraid to lean on them when things get tough.
And if you do fall, it's okay to get back up again. It's all part of the process.
Absolutely. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. And that's worth celebrating.
Jacob, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up today's conversation. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me, Sophia. This has been such an enriching conversation.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us today. Remember, breaking through your barriers is possible one small step at a time. Keep showing up, and keep believing in yourself. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes. Before we wrap up, Jacob, I'd love to dive a little deeper into something you said earlier. You mentioned surrounding yourself with supportive people. How do you find those people, and what role do they play in helping you overcome barriers?
Great question, Sophia. Finding supportive people starts with being open to building connections. It's not about having a huge circle of friends, but rather finding those who truly understand your goals and are there to cheer you on. I think the most important thing is to look for people who are genuinely encouraging, and not just those who will agree with everything you do. The right people will challenge you to grow, while still supporting you through it.
I love that. So, it's not about finding yes men, but rather people who are honest and help you grow in ways that might feel uncomfortable at first.
Exactly. Sometimes, the people who push you hardest are the ones you learn the most from. It's all about finding that balance between comfort and challenge. You don't want to be surrounded by negativity, but a little constructive criticism can go a long way.
And I think that's where accountability comes in, right? Having people around who can hold you accountable for your goals and actions.
Absolutely. Accountability partners are invaluable. When you have someone to check in with, you're more likely to stay committed to your goals. It makes the process less isolating and much more motivating.
That's so true. And I think it's important to note that the journey to overcoming barriers doesn't have to be done alone. Having people around you who genuinely want to see you succeed makes all the difference.
It really does. And it's also about finding a community that shares your values and aspirations. Whether it's a group of friends, mentors, or even an online community, finding your tribe is essential to staying motivated and inspired.
Speaking of community, do you think online communities can play a role in helping people break through barriers?
Oh, 100%. In fact, I think they're becoming more important than ever. There are so many groups, forums, and platforms where people can come together, share experiences, and offer support. Sometimes it's easier to open up in an online setting, and the advice you get from others who've gone through similar struggles can be incredibly valuable.
It's amazing how technology can connect us in such meaningful ways, isn't it? It's like we have access to a global support network at our fingertips.
Exactly. And the beauty of online communities is that they're often filled with people who've walked in your shoes. They understand the challenges you're facing, and their support can be just what you need to keep going.
It really opens up a whole new world of possibilities for anyone feeling stuck. So, I think the key takeaway here is don't hesitate to seek out those connections, whether online or offline, and allow yourself to lean on others when needed.
Absolutely. Don't isolate yourself. We're all in this together, and there's no shame in asking for help or guidance. The more we connect with others, the more we realize we're not alone in our struggles.
That's a great reminder. So, let's leave our listeners with this thought: barriers are not insurmountable walls. They are challenges that can be overcome with the right mindset, action, and support.
And remember, no matter how big or small the step, progress is still progress. Every little action gets you closer to breaking through that barrier.
Well said, Jacob. Thanks again for being here today and for sharing such powerful insights.
Thanks for having me, Sophia. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, you've got everything you need within you to break through whatever barriers are in your way. Don't be afraid to take that first step. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes, and as always, keep growing and keep believing in yourself. Before we officially sign off, Jacob, I just wanted to touch on one more thing. For those who might be feeling overwhelmed right now, who are perhaps facing a tough barrier, and aren't sure where to start, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
That's a great question, Sophia. My advice would be to start small. You don't have to tackle everything at once. Break the barrier down into smaller, more manageable steps. Each small victory will build momentum and make the overall challenge feel less daunting. It's all about progress, not perfection.
I love that approach. Small steps can really add up over time. And I think people sometimes forget that you don't need to have it all figured out right away. Taking those first steps can be the most important thing.
Exactly, and even if you stumble along the way, that's part of the process. The key is to keep moving forward, no matter how slowly. Every time you pick yourself up, you're getting closer to breaking through that barrier.
That's such a refreshing perspective. It reminds us that setbacks aren't failures, they're just part of the journey. So, for anyone feeling stuck, remember that you've already got what it takes to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And never forget to be kind to yourself during the process. It's easy to be hard on yourself, but self-compassion is just as important as determination.
Definitely. Being kind to yourself can make all the difference in staying motivated and keeping a positive mindset.
And as you continue to take those small steps, you'll look back one day and realize how far you've come. Progress might not always be visible day to day, but when you zoom out, you'll see just how much you've achieved.
That's so true. It's like looking at a map, you don't see the full picture until you take a step back and look at the journey as a whole.
Exactly, and I think that's something a lot of people forget. They get caught up in the day-to-day struggle, but in reality, every step counts. The journey might be long, but it's so worth it when you look back and realize how much you've grown.
That's a powerful reminder for anyone feeling discouraged. Growth isn't always instant, but it's happening, even when we don't see it in the moment.
That's right. So, whether you're dealing with a big barrier or just trying to make small improvements, remember it's all part of your growth. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Well said, Jacob. Thank you again for being here today. Your insights are so valuable, and I'm sure our listeners will take a lot away from this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Sophia. It's always a pleasure. I hope everyone out there feels inspired to keep pushing forward.
And, to all of our listeners, remember that the barriers you face are not the end of your story, they're just a chapter in a much bigger journey. Keep pushing forward, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. Before we wrap up for today, Jacob, I want to ask you one last question. What do you think is the most important mindset shift that people need to make when trying to break through any barrier?
That's an excellent question, Sophia. I believe the most important mindset shift is moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. When you have a fixed mindset, you see barriers as permanent and yourself as incapable of overcoming them. But with a growth mindset, you start to believe that challenges are opportunities for growth. You start seeing failures as learning experiences, and you know that every obstacle is just a stepping stone to something better.
I couldn't agree more. The idea that we can grow from our failures is such a powerful concept. It changes the way we approach obstacles in life. Instead of feeling defeated, we start asking ourselves, what can I learn from this?
Exactly, and once you start viewing obstacles through that lens, they no longer seem like roadblocks. They're just part of the process. They become the training ground for the success that's coming.
I love that obstacles as a training ground. It shifts the whole perspective. It also makes you realize that every challenge is temporary, and that you've got what it takes to move beyond it.
That's the key, knowing that you have the ability to push through and grow. The more you embrace that mindset, the more resilient you become. Even on the toughest days, you'll remind yourself, this too shall pass.
That's such an empowering thought. And I think it's something we can all take with us today. No matter where we are in our journey, no matter how tough things may seem, the growth mindset reminds us that we're capable of overcoming anything.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the big wins, it's about those small shifts in thinking that make all the difference in the long run.
So true. Every little change, every small victory, adds up. It's a gradual process, but in the end, it's a much more rewarding one.
Exactly. And I think once people embrace that growth mindset, they'll start to see things differently. They'll stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That's when real progress begins.
I completely agree. It's all about perspective. Once we change the way we look at challenges, the challenges themselves seem less daunting.
And it's that shift in perspective that helps you navigate through life's toughest moments with more confidence and less fear.
So, for our listeners out there, I think today's conversation has really highlighted the power of mindset. It's not just about breaking through barriers. It's about how we approach them and how we choose to grow from them.
Exactly. And to anyone who's listening and feeling like they're stuck, just remember you're not alone and there's always a way forward. The mindset shift is the first step, and once you've made it, everything else will start to follow.
Well, Jacob, I can't thank you enough for your incredible insights today. This conversation has been so valuable, and I know our listeners will find it helpful.
Thank you for having me, Sophia. It's been a pleasure. I hope this conversation inspires someone out there to take the next step in their own journey.
And to all of our listeners, remember, no barrier is too big to overcome when you have the right mindset. Keep pushing forward, keep learning, and keep believing in your ability to grow. Before we wrap up today's episode, Jacob, let's dive into one more area that's been on my mind. We've talked a lot about mindset and barriers. But what about those days when motivation feels low? How do you push through when you just don't feel like continuing?
That's a great point, Sophia. Motivation can definitely fluctuate, and those low days can be really tough. Personally, I try to remind myself why I started in the first place. It's easy to forget your why when you're bogged down by the day-to-day challenges, but taking a step back and reconnecting with your original reason for doing something can reignite that spark. Even on the days when I don't feel motivated, I just remind myself that showing up, even if it's just a little bit, is still progress.
I love that, focusing on your why. Sometimes, when everything feels overwhelming, returning to the core reason you're doing something can really help put things in perspective. But do you think there are other ways to get through those low energy moments?
For sure. Another thing I do is break tasks down into smaller, more manageable pieces. Instead of thinking about the huge task ahead of me, I'll just focus on the next step. This takes the pressure off and helps me feel less overwhelmed. Even if I'm not feeling 100%, accomplishing a small task can give me that sense of achievement, and that often sparks the motivation I need to keep going.
That's a great strategy. It's like giving yourself permission to only focus on the next small thing. It's a lot less intimidating than trying to tackle everything all at once.
Exactly. And I also remind myself that it's okay to take breaks. Sometimes we think that pushing ourselves nonstop is the only way to make progress, but that's not the case. Rest and recovery are just as important. If you're burnt out, you're not going to be as effective. So taking time to recharge can actually help you come back stronger.
That's such an important point. Rest isn't just for when we're tired, it's a part of the process. It helps us refresh our minds and bodies. So when we do work, we're more focused and productive.
Absolutely. It's all about balance. And I think that's something a lot of people overlook. They think they have to go nonstop, but true progress is made when you find that balance between pushing forward and giving yourself the space to rest.
It's funny how we often forget that rest is part of the journey, isn't it? We think that if we're not constantly working, we're falling behind.
I think it's a mindset shift that many people need to make. There's this constant pressure to be productive 24/7, but we need to remind ourselves that we're human. Rest, self-care, and even just taking a break can be just as productive as working straight through.
So, what would you say to someone who feels guilty about taking a break? How do they let go of that guilt and give themselves permission to rest?
That's a tough one. Guilt around rest is really common, but the first thing I would say is you deserve it. Rest is essential for long-term success. If you keep pushing yourself without taking time to recharge, you'll eventually hit a wall. It's important to think about the bigger picture. Taking care of yourself today means you'll be able to give your best tomorrow. And sometimes that means giving yourself a break without guilt.
That's such a healthy perspective. Rest isn't a sign of weakness or laziness, it's a tool for self-preservation and growth. In fact, it might just be the key to sustaining motivation in the long run.
Exactly. And if you find yourself feeling guilty, just remind yourself that taking breaks doesn't mean you're not working hard. It's part of the process. Everyone needs time to recharge, and that time will make you even more productive when you return to your tasks.
I think it's also important to remember that it's okay to not be on all the time. We're so used to this culture of constant hustle. But we're not machines. We have to give ourselves grace and time to rest, just like we would for anyone else.
100%. It's so easy to compare ourselves to others and think we need to keep up with their pace. But the truth is, everyone's journey is different. Your pace is your own, and that's okay. Don't let external pressure define what your success looks like.
That's such an important point. Success isn't one size fits all. It's about finding what works for you and going at your own pace. We all have different limits, and respecting those limits is essential for long-term success.
Definitely. And when you do find that balance between working hard, taking breaks, and being kind to yourself, it becomes easier to keep pushing forward, even on those tough days.
Well, Jacob, this conversation has been such a valuable reminder about balance, self-compassion, and the power of taking breaks. I'm sure our listeners will leave feeling motivated and refreshed.
I really hope so, Sophia. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today, and I hope everyone listening takes something positive away from our discussion.
And to everyone out there, remember, it's okay to take a break, it's okay to rest, and it's okay to go at your own pace. Progress is progress, no matter how slow it may feel at times. Keep taking those steps forward, and we'll be back next time with more insights and inspiration. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes. Before we go, Jacob, there's one last thought I want to ask you about. We've talked a lot about motivation and the mindset shift, but sometimes the external world can make us feel like we're not enough, or we're not where we should be. How do we overcome those feelings of comparison or insecurity?
That's a big one. It's so easy to look around and feel like everyone else is doing better or moving faster. I've definitely been there. One thing that helps me is reminding myself that everyone has their own path. It's like comparing apples to oranges. You can't really measure your journey against someone else's. Social media, in particular, can make it worse because we see the highlight reel of other people's lives. But what we don't see are the struggles or setbacks they face behind the scenes.
So true. Social media often only shows the successes and the polished versions of people's lives. But we forget that everyone has their own struggles. It's important to remember that just because someone else is ahead doesn't mean you're falling behind.
Exactly. And also, it's about understanding that there is no such thing as a perfect path. Some people move fast, others slow, and some are just in different stages of their journey. And that's okay. What matters most is that you're moving forward in your own way and on your own time.
That's such a refreshing perspective. It's easy to forget that our journey is uniquely ours. The pace doesn't matter as long as we're moving forward.
And I think it's important to celebrate where you are right now, even if it feels like you're not exactly where you want to be. Every small win counts. Take a moment to recognize how far you've come, even if it's just a little bit of progress. Every step forward is still progress.
I absolutely love that. Sometimes we're so focused on the destination that we forget to appreciate how far we've come. Celebrating those small victories can keep our spirits high and remind us that we're capable of achieving big things.
That's right. And another thing I do is focus on personal growth rather than external validation. If you're constantly looking to others for approval or comparing yourself to their success, you'll never feel truly satisfied. But if you measure your success by how much you've grown, how much you've learned, or how much more resilient you've become, that's where the real fulfillment lies.
Oh, that's powerful. Focusing on internal growth rather than external validation is a game changer. It takes away the pressure of keeping up with others and allows you to enjoy the process of personal development.
Exactly. It's all about being in competition with yourself, not with anyone else. When you focus on becoming a better version of you every day, there's no room for comparison. You're only racing against your own potential.
That's such a great reminder. It's easy to forget that the only person you should be in competition with is yourself. It's about progress, not perfection.
And with that mindset, you can enjoy the journey. There's less stress, less pressure, and a lot more fulfillment. Success becomes a personal thing, and it's defined by what feels right for you, not by what someone else is doing.
I think that's something we all need to hear more often. It's easy to get caught up in the rush, but it's so important to remember that we're all on our own paths, and that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling like you're stuck or falling behind, just remember that everyone starts somewhere. Success isn't about a straight line, it's about persistence and growth over time.
That's so true. It's all about consistency and persistence, even when things feel hard. And the journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be valuable.
Exactly. Your journey is your own, and it's beautiful in its own way. Keep focusing on your personal growth, keep pushing forward, and remember that the best is yet to come.
And I think that's the perfect note to end on. Your journey is unique, and the progress you make is what truly matters. Thank you again for being here today, Jacob. This has been such a refreshing conversation.
Thank you for having me, Sophia. It's been a pleasure to chat, and I hope our conversation has helped someone out there feel more confident in their own journey.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners, remember your journey is yours to own, and progress is progress, no matter how small. Keep focusing on your growth. Celebrate those small victories, and trust that you are right where you need to be. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before we wrap up completely, Jacob, I wanted to ask, what are some daily habits or practices that you've found to be the most effective in keeping you on track and focused on your growth?
That's a great question. One of the things I swear by is starting my day with a morning routine. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something that sets the tone for the day. For me, I like to begin with a bit of meditation to clear my mind, followed by a few minutes of journaling. It helps me get in the right mindset and reflect on what I want to achieve that day.
I love that. I've heard so many successful people swear by having a morning routine. It's amazing how those small moments of reflection and grounding can set you up for a positive and productive day.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of control and calm before the chaos of the day starts. I also make sure to include a quick workout or some physical activity. Even just a short walk or stretching helps me feel energized and focused.
It's incredible how much of a difference physical activity can make. It's like you're giving your mind and body the fuel they need to perform at their best.
100%. And another habit I've been working on is practicing gratitude every day. It's easy to focus on what's not going right, but taking time to acknowledge the things I'm grateful for shifts my perspective and reminds me of the positive aspects of my life. It could be something as small as a good cup of coffee or a meaningful conversation.
gratitude is such a powerful tool. It's all too easy to get caught up in what we don't have, or what's not going well. But taking a moment to appreciate the small blessings really helps put things into perspective.
It really does. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, which is so important for mental well-being. When you're grateful, it's easier to see opportunities rather than obstacles.
That's such a valuable mindset to have. It's all about shifting the way we see the world. When we focus on what we have and what we can do, we open ourselves up to even more possibilities.
Absolutely. And I think the last habit that's been really effective for me is prioritizing rest and recovery. It's easy to think that the more you work, the more you'll achieve, but burnout is real. Making time to rest, take breaks, and do something for yourself is crucial to sustaining long-term growth.
Yes, rest is so underrated in our hustle culture. But without rest, our minds and bodies can't function at their best. Taking that time to recharge is just as important as working hard.
Exactly. It's about balance. You need to work hard, but you also need to give yourself permission to step back and recharge so you can come back stronger.
Those are some amazing practices. I love how they all tie back into being intentional with your time, mindset, and energy.
Yeah, and I think the key is consistency. It's not about doing everything perfectly every day, but rather making these habits a part of your routine so they become second nature over time.
Definitely. It's all about building those small habits that, when added up over time, create big changes. Thank you for sharing those, Jacob. I think our listeners will really be able to take something valuable from that.
I hope so. It's all about finding what works for you and sticking with it. Everyone's journey is unique, but the small habits we build can make a world of difference.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Alright, everyone, that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you feel inspired to take those small steps towards growth, whether it's in your daily habits or your mindset. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, remember progress is progress, no matter how small. Keep moving forward, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me again, Sophia. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to the next conversation.
Same here. Until next time, take care and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before we finish, Jacob, I have one last question that I think will resonate with a lot of people. A lot of us struggle with staying consistent when motivation fades. How do you stay committed when the excitement starts to wear off?
Oh, that's a tough one. Motivation can definitely be a tricky thing because it's not always going to be there. What I've learned is that it's not about relying on motivation to keep going. It's about creating systems and habits that work, whether you're feeling motivated or not. When motivation fades, discipline takes over.
That's such an important point. Motivation is like a wave, it comes and goes, but when you have habits in place, it's easier to keep going even when motivation is low.
Exactly. It's like building a foundation. You don't need to feel motivated to stick to your routine if you've already made it a habit. One thing that helps me is breaking down big tasks into smaller, manageable steps. When I focus on one small thing at a time, it feels less overwhelming, and I'm less likely to get discouraged.
I love that. Breaking things down into smaller chunks makes everything feel more achievable. It's less about looking at the big picture and more about focusing on the next step.
Yeah. And I also find that setting clear goals and tracking progress helps me stay accountable. Even if it's just checking off small wins every day, it gives me a sense of accomplishment. And that keeps me moving forward even when I'm not feeling 100%.
It's all about staying accountable to yourself. Even the smallest progress deserves recognition, because those little steps add up over time.
Definitely. And sometimes when the motivation dips, I remind myself of my why. Why did I start this in the first place? What's my bigger vision? Reconnecting with that deeper purpose can reignite the spark, even when motivation isn't naturally there.
That's such a powerful reminder. When the motivation is gone, it's your why that keeps you going. It's like the anchor that holds you steady when the waves of motivation are unpredictable.
Exactly. It's the foundation that keeps you grounded. And I also think that surrounding yourself with a supportive community or friends who share similar goals can help you stay on track. When you have people cheering you on, it makes it easier to stay disciplined and motivated.
So true. Having that support system makes a huge difference. It's like having a team rooting for you. And that encouragement can push you to keep going, even when things get tough.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the importance of self-compassion. Sometimes we can be our own harshest critics. When things don't go as planned, it's important to be kind to yourself and understand that setbacks are part of the process. Progress is not always linear, and that's okay.
That's such an important point. It's easy to get frustrated when things don't go according to plan. But being gentle with yourself helps you bounce back faster and continue moving forward.
Right, and the key is persistence. If you keep showing up, even on the days when you don't feel like it, eventually, the results will follow. It's all about consistency and not letting a bad day derail your progress.
I love that. Consistency over perfection. It's about doing the work day in and day out. Even when the excitement fades, the results will come, but only if you keep showing up.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's not about how many times you fall, but how many times you get back up. That resilience is what makes all the difference.
That's a great way to end this. Resilience is everything. Keep getting back up, keep moving forward, and remember that every step counts. Thank you again for this amazing conversation, Jacob. Your insights have been so valuable today.
Thank you for having me, Sophia. It's always a pleasure to chat about these important topics. I hope everyone listening feels inspired to keep going, no matter what.
Absolutely. To our listeners, keep going, stay committed, and remember that your journey is unique and worth celebrating. We'll be back next time with more conversations that'll help you on your path to growth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, take care and keep growing.